How you guys doing, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for joining us on this very special edition podcast. I'm joined with two of my friends, two of my mentors, and just two amazing human beings, Guillermo Haro and Ricardo Acevedo.
Thanks for having us, man. Appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Was looking forward to it.
Yes. So for those who don't know, we've been doing this podcast called Bringing Value for a bit of time, Ricardo and myself, and wanted to bring a third person guest. And who else would be better, in my mind, honestly, than Guillermo here?
He's given us a privilege for sure, man.
Absolutely. So we have a little format. The main topics we're going to discuss will be about family. We'll be talking about the dynamic and a little bit about a legacy. So I want to go right into it. I'll be help moderating the two. So Ricardo, for example, you may begin, or let's say Guillermo will begin, just to keep the format clean and, digestible is the form I'm looking for here. So you guys have warmed up quite a bit. I wish we could got more of the early conversation that was here before this podcast, but wow, it just amazing dynamic between the two of you guys. So I'm looking forward to this.
Cool.
Guillermo, I want to get you warmed up here. I want you to get the first question.
Okay.
Could you tell me more about your family? How many kids do you have, your wife, and so forth?
I have 3 children. I have she's going to be 19. Her name is Sophia. And then I have a 7-year-old Valentino, and then I have a 4-year-old Maximiliano. My wife is Angelica. So Sophia does not live with us, by the way, but we live here in Glendora, California. And my wife and I just got back from our 10-year anniversary. We did a trip to Dubai for 7 days. So best trip of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
10 years, man. That's congratulations.
Thank you.
10 years is not easy nowadays, right?
No.
Obviously, my name is Ricardo Acevedo. I have 10 kids, 1 girl, 9 boys. And Sandra, my wife, we're both in the real estate business for those that follow us. And it's such a pleasure today to be here and sharing here with Guillermo and all his knowledge and all his experience and all his success, as a businessman but also as a family man, as a husband, as a father. And we're just excited to share as many, situations and things that we have accomplished along the way as parents and business people. So very excited.
Yeah.
Me too.
I want to jump in more into your family life as well. So you said you had 3 kids. How old are they?
Sophia's going to be 19. Valentino is going to be 7, and Maximiliano is 4.
Okay, so you have a pretty big gap between the oldest and the middle child there.
Yeah.
Very cool. So is Sophia still live with you guys? Or
No. Sophia lives with her mom in Orange County.
Okay, very cool. Could you tell me more about the kids as far as like what do you see in them? Ambitions, or I don't know, maybe even daily habits or weird quirky ones?
The kids are a lot of fun. I love kids. I've prayed to God when I was a young man that I wanted to grow up and have a family. I'm a big family guy. I love family activities. I wanted to have 2 boys. I wanted to create a legacy that my boys would be able to follow. So once I had Sophia, I looked to the man upstairs and I says, hey, will you bless me with 2 boys? And found a wife, and that's exactly what I got. So I'm happy.
Walk me through, because I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, like what you're teaching your boys, especially because those are pretty young kids, by the way. And I don't know, like I can tell you when you're younger, I think the majority of people will agree, you just absorb everything around you, right? So walk me through that.
Well, the main thing is we try to teach our kids a lot of what we were taught when we were kids. One of the main things I try to teach my kids is character and integrity and saying something and then doing it, and hard work and listen. It's funny how a lot of people don't listen nowadays. So we teach them how to be grateful, how to be appreciative. We teach them faith. We teach them how to respect one another, how to speak to their mom, how to show respect for the elders. So those are some of the characteristics that I believe are super important with raising children, that there's a certain standard that they have to live up to. There's already some do's and don'ts, and you want to carve into their mind the person that they're going to become. I read a study one time that says when a child is from 3 to 8 years old, that's when their mind is most fertile to absorb the good and the bad. And if you're not there to watch what they're listening to, what they're around, the environment that they're in, then that can take them in a certain direction. And obviously I'm very conscious of that. One other thing too is really special is I speak, my first language was Spanish, And for my kids, I wanted to make sure that that legacy continued. You know, it takes one generation to lose it. So if I don't teach my kids Spanish, then clearly they're not going to teach their kids Spanish, and it's gone. So it's one generation and it's gone. So in having a conversation here earlier with Ricardo, I'm just so excited that he's also made the discipline, because it takes work, constant reminders around the clock to speak Spanish first. So therefore they lock that in, and then naturally they'll pick up English. English is a piece of cake.
Do your kids speak Spanish too?
Yes, most of them, not all of them, but it's obviously in the works. But yeah, they mostly all speak Spanish for sure.
Whoa. Could walk me through some of because I know I was listening into your conversations prior to the podcast. You were mentioning something similar to Guillermo here, which was the faith, the language, the discipline. I mean, I know I see that a lot in your family life. Could you explore more on that option?
Well, it's basically, again, is how we're raising our kids, right? What's our main foundation as to what we're trying to accomplish as parents that we want to instill on our kids, based on what we feel is important as a family for the generations to come, right? Our principles as family, our religion, our work ethic, our commitment to life, our commitment to our family, our commitment to our responsibilities in life, and basically having the right principles in line to be able to now funnel that to the next generations that come right after them. So we're very big on understanding, and showing gratitude for the opportunity that life has given us, and to be able to just really, grasp, the opportunity of life that we have and just live it.
Wow. I want to explore the gratitude concept because that's something you guys both shared right now. Walk me through that. Like I think so many people just fail to understand what gratitude is. They think I said thank you. That's gratitude, right? And that's not really gratitude, at least in my opinion, right? It's deeper than that.
It goes a lot deeper. I think if you look at everyone in the world right now, most people that are walking this earth right now are poor. Just geographically speaking, if you study all the countries, you study mankind, most people are poor. This says that if you do the economics of life, most people don't have $100 in their bank account. Just from a world perspective. Now, we live in the United States, considered to be amongst the most lucrative, most prosperous country out there. So people take that for granted. So I constantly remind my kids of the appreciation they need to have for what they do have. Now, we have more than most, and I understand that, and I'm very grateful for that, and we work really hard for that. And I think it's also important to teach people the fact that they need to be grateful for what they have. I says, listen, I tell my kids, you have a roof over your head. You got food in the refrigerator. You got an iPad. You know how many kids in the world don't have an iPad, will never see an iPad? You have an iPad. So there's a sense of being appreciative and grateful for the things that you have above and beyond the norm. But the norm is just a roof over your head, clothes, food, and parents that love you, and you have good health. How much more do you want than that? So there's more, but those are the fundamentals. Those are the basics. And people who don't value that, oftentimes they lose it, and then they're whining about why they don't have it. But when you have it, that's when you got to value it. That's when you have to show the greatest amount of appreciation.
I think, Ricardo, I saw you wanted to jump in on that.
No, I was just being listening, man, and understanding. But it's very similar. It's understanding the fact that you can't take things for granted. Obviously, not just because they're there, they landed there just because they landed there. They landed because it was obviously work ethic and sacrifices that went to obtain that. I'm very big with my kids, not just giving them stuff to give them stuff. I make them earn their stuff because I want to make sure that they understand that things, when you actually work for them, that's how you actually appreciate them, because you pour time and effort into it. Therefore, you're going to value and appreciate the thing more versus when things are just handed over without actually earning it. And that's when you really start understanding and appreciating what you have. So we try to make sure that we instill the gratification portion of it and the gratitude, because we are blessed to have a little more than somebody else that don't have.
He's so modest. He says a little more.
I guess I'm thinking right now, it's like, how are you teaching the kids though? Because what is it? Like, is it a sit down? Is it a, hey, by the way, this is how it works? Is it a TV show? Like what?
These are constant reminders. For example, just grace before eating. Put your hands together and show some appreciation for the fact that you're going to taste this food and bless the hands that prepared it. And the fact that there was the opportunity to have a meal together as a family. How many families don't eat together anymore? It seems like that's like the thing of the past. Exactly. Well, no, we sit down and we eat together. We pray together. We understand that we're going to have family time, and that's valuable. And you have to treasure that. There comes a point where that's not there, and then you'll miss it.
I agree. I think, Ricardo, you're pretty big on the traditions as well. Like, I know you're.
Yeah. My kids, anytime I take them out to eat, it's very funny because they already know, like the song, right? Is we don't pray all the time, which we should. We pray, obviously, every so often when we remind ourselves, hey, we got to pray and we got to thank God for the food. But what we trained our kids to since the first child that was born is every time we go out and eat, you know, like a little song will start, because think about it, it's 10 of them, right? The first one will say, thank you, God. Thank you for the food. Thank you, Papi. Thank you, Mommy, for the food. So it's one of those things that every time, and it's very fulfilling and satisfying to know that they understand because we taught them. And every time we go out to eat, first thing they say after we're done eating, thank you, God. Thank you, Papi. Thank you, Mommy, because they understand it's something that it's gratitude towards understanding that is not just given. It's everything that we have. It's based on the blessings from God and the gratitude based on obviously the opportunity to thank God for that matter.
I want you guys to imagine right now
Yeah.
going to a restaurant and seeing 10 kids one by one going down the line saying thank you, thank you. Like,
Now and the way you conduct yourself, man, is the most important way. Is how you treat other people in front of them is how you're teaching them on how obviously they're going to treat other people around us. They're observing me. They're observing Sandra. So how I treat the server, how I treat the person in that restaurant environment, or how I treat obviously people, it's a big impact on how they are going to end up treating other people around themselves.
Kids are the biggest copycats,
oh yeah.
and they're influenced. They do as they see. They learn bad behavior. They watch a cartoon. For example, the other day I was noticing my kid was watching a certain cartoon, and 3 or 4 hours after that cartoon, he was actually acting like that cartoon. I don't necessarily like it. And I says, we're not watching this anymore. Yeah, it's quick. It's very quick. And also good behavior can be the same, but bad habits and bad behavior is so much easier to catch on to than good habits and good behavior.
Yes.
So that's why you got to constantly monitor that, and you got to protect the environment by which they're learning.
What do you guys do? Maybe, like, are there any exercises or affirmations you guys do to make sure you guys are leading by example in that case? Like, I mean, because I'm sure we're all human. There are times I'm sure where you have acted out of line or acted in a way that you're like, you know what, I wish I didn't act that way. What are some exercises, or maybe how do you fix those problems?
Well, I don't know that they ever can be fixed. I mean, we're human. I'm sure I can't speak for Ricardo, but for myself, I catch myself doing things that, like, I shouldn't have done that around my kid, or I shouldn't have said this, or, you say a improper statement, or you cuss. So, it's life, and kids need to also know that parents aren't perfect. I've never told them, hey, I'm a perfect parent. Your mom's a perfect mom. I'm not a perfect dad. So we're working people, we're making progress, but as long as they understand that the intentions by which we do things are in their best interest. Like, correcting a kid sometimes is tough, but they got to know that it's for their best interest. And I sit them down. Sometimes, like, they act up, and I look at them right there and say, look at me. And then I tell them, say, you know why Papi did this? And then I want them to understand the cause and effect. If you don't teach people cause and effect, then it goes unnoticed.
How about you, Ricardo? What are your thoughts on that?
For me, it's obviously a little different because obviously I have to find the right moments and situations to be able to discuss a situation where I made a mistake or they made a mistake, and I have to obviously get them in a separate moment based on who was there at the time of the situation. But, I like to sit down with them and just discuss obviously the facts and go over what happened, where the decision was made, what was wrong about the decision, and how we can correct that so it doesn't happen again.
Wow. I want to switch gears slightly because you guys were talking about this earlier and it blew my mind. and it was about the whole Santa Claus thing, right? You guys are talking, because I know you guys are both men of faith, and I think the rhetoric is, and this will probably get you guys going, is that kids thinks, heck, Christmas is, presents. That's it. Santa Claus, presents, and that's it. And I know both of you guys are pretty, like I said, strong in faith. And how are you guys, I don't know, adjusting the mindset of the children to be, again, more gratitude, more gracious, and just overall more faithful?
For me, I think we need to teach our kids the real meaning of these days. The real meaning of Christmas is not Santa Claus, it's not Christmas tree, it's not lights, and it's not presents. That's the commercialized side of it. So if you explain to kids that Christmas has a meaning far beyond the material side of it, far beyond just receiving gifts and then opening up, that's the glitter of it. The true meaning is the birth of Christ. And you take them through that and you tell them the stories. So I think many parents don't tell their kids the stories that they need to hear. And I remember when I was growing up, my grandmother, my grandfather, my parents would teach me the stories of this. So therefore, it gets ingrained at an early age, and you understand what it means. Christmas is the birth of Christ, not Santa Claus. Now, and they says, well, wait a minute, how come at school they don't say this? Or how come our friends, they're all about that? Or we go to the mall. I says, okay, well, and you have to explain to them the monetary side of it, the material side of it, so the commercialized side of it, so that they understand that there's the spiritual side and then there's the commercial side. And of course, that conversation won't be understood the first 1 or 2 or 3 times, but you have to keep explaining that to them, so therefore they understand. And also the constant reminder of prayer and gratitude and looking up to the heavens. And if they see you doing it, they'll catch on a little bit faster.
I want to get this on camera because I heard the story and I was laughing about how your son thought Jesus was from the ghetto or something.
From the hood.
Yeah, could you walk me through
because
that?
I grew up poor. I think that's not a secret to anyone. I grew up poor. We had very little when I was coming up, but my parents did teach me morals and character and all that. No one's perfect. But I constantly remind my son, Tiger, the Valentino is his real name. He's 7 years old. And I was explaining to him how the birth of baby Jesus happened, how the Joseph and Mary, and they went over to this little hut, and it was very modest conditions and all that. And he's kind of putting 2 and 2 together. He's combining the conversation that I'm constantly having with him about how we grew up in the hood, we grew up in lower income areas, and then he he was able to maybe connect it. He says, "Daddy, so does that mean that baby Jesus was born in the hood?" And we just, I just laid out for like half an hour. So that was his interpretation of the 2 stories.
I tell you, kids, man, they put things together like that, though.
Oh yeah,
and that's awesome. Ricardo, have you had that conversation with your kids, like as far as?
Yes, and it's us, and then obviously through our educational program from our church, which is our Catholic church. When they went to their first communion and things of that nature, they get reiterated on that information as well. But yeah, Sandra and I, since the beginning, we instilled our kids to understand the true meaning of Christmas. Obviously, knowing that it's not just obviously Christmas and presents and things of that nature, but it's a birth of God, and it goes way beyond that, and the actual meaning behind it, right, as him having birth, to come in and change our lives, and we're reborn on that moment. We have the opportunity to change our lives and to, obviously change the aspects of life and redo ourselves and redo life based on changes, a new year, a new start, a new beginning.
Wow.
I
wanted to, because that kind of leads me to where I wanted to go, which is I want to throw a word to you guys and just dish out on it and give me your thoughts. And the word I'm thinking of is legacy. What is legacy?
It's what you'll be remembered by. It's your imprint on this world. It's how people will remember you. It's what they'll say about you. It's what you did when you were here. So the other day we had a meeting, and we brought up the topic, and then we asked them, says, "Hey, do any of you guys know your great-great-grandfather? Not your grandfather, but his grandfather." And it says, no one knows their great-great-grandfather. And respectfully speaking, I said, you know why you don't know your great-grandfather? Because he didn't do anything great. No offense intended, but he didn't do anything great. Had he done something great, you would know about him. How come we know Alexander Graham Bell? How come we know Dale Carnegie? How come we know John D. Rockefeller? Why do we know Abraham Lincoln? Why do we know Dr. Martin Luther King? Why do we know these people? Because they did something great. So that in itself, to me, that's a legacy. To do something that will impact this generation, the next generation, the following generation, by which people will read about you, hear about you. There'll be documentaries about you. That means you did something great. Well, a lot of people have no interest in doing anything great because it takes work. It takes dedication. It takes discipline. It takes being uncomfortable. It takes the extraordinary. So legacies are created by people who do the extraordinary.
Wow. Ricardo, what's your thoughts?
That's awesome. He put it on, I think, on a great perspective, and I'm very driven by that. I'm a true believer that I am the establisher of my new generations to come. Therefore, I have a big commitment to do great things so that I can establish greatness, and that pours over into my next generations. That's the commitment I have in life. Having 10 kids, it's being able to set the standards and the tones for the next generations to come, and by doing great things while we're here, so we're able to impact our names, in the world, so that our new generations to come, they look at greatness and how they're going to follow that, and they're going to take it to a greater level after I'm gone.
Wow. Is that something that you guys both, like that mindset, is that something you guys got when you had your first kids, or is that something that you developed in the long run? When did that mindset kick in? Because I'll tell you, I don't have kids, and so it's hard for me to still digest that term legacy. And I'm sure a lot of our audience doesn't have kids, or you know what I mean? Like where is that?
Well, I don't think you need to have kids in order to create a legacy. I'm sure there's people that never had kids that did leave a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we hear of people who constantly are being talked about, and those are legacies. We have living legacies. We have a living legend, and then we have I would say most people that left a legacy, they're already left us. But the part of that would be is the reminder of constantly becoming your best. If you do your best, great things happen. If you don't do your best, then you'll be subpar. So at whatever you do, you gotta do your best. The coaches, when I was coming up, they says always do your best. You do the sprints, you do the workouts, you do whatever you're doing. Do your best. And oftentimes for young entrepreneurs or people in business, they don't do their best. They do their second best, their third best. Well, what would happen if you did your best and you continuously, and if you did it repeatedly, and if you did it to the point where it was sustainable? People who do great things on a sustainable level become legends.
Wow. Very powerful. Wow. Ricardo, like what are your thoughts? Like when did you get this like epiphany of legacy?
When I started having my kids.
Yeah.
I knew ever since I was a kid that I was meant to do big things in life. I didn't know what it was. My biggest thing was to be the father of 10 kids. So obviously when Sandra and I got married and all of a sudden our life changed, having our first child, my commitment to that child, my commitment to my wife, and then later my commitment to the fourth and the fifth and the sixth.
Wow.
It just gave me, honestly, just more and more ammunition, man, just to say, Ricardo, these 5, these 10, or 6, these 10 kids, they're an extension of you, man. You have a big responsibility in life to lead them in the right direction, to lead them as a right leader. And you have this responsibility where you got to do things right. You have to go all out based on who you are and your commitment to life based upon your marriage, your kids. They've always been my main drive. They've been my main motivation to continue to be the best version of myself, because they're the biggest responsibility I have in life is I want to live up to the standards where I'm gone. Is I want to leave obviously behind a generation of bigger and greater things outside of me. I'm just establishing the foundation. I'm responsible to establish the foundation because they're going to do bigger and greater things than I'm going to do while I'm here.
Wow. I really resonate with what you guys just said. And the reason why I say this is because my grandfather, and like how you're talking, like you're talking about greatness, right? I was like, holy moly, you're right. Everyone in my family, by the way, loves our grandfather. He passed, unfortunately, but his legacy is still so much alive. He was a very famous lawyer in Pakistan, and he represented the president, I believe, when he was getting impeached. So incredibly well known. Had this house, like I kid you not, the house became a school now. That's how big the house was. And gee, like you're 100% right. Like when you do great things, you don't need to push the story. The story gets pushed for you. And now even now his great grandkids are now talking about him already. And wow, I don't know, it just goes full circle for me.
It is amazing for sure.
Kicked in.
Yeah, wow. Well, hey, I do want to switch gears because like I know we were talking about family and legacy, and that's just so powerful. But I know I had both of you guys here, and you guys are two of the most disciplined. Like, okay, especially like both of you guys, but Ricardo especially too. Like, man, your schedule in the morning and everything you've done has even like rubbed off on me. I'm now a morning guy also. I want to go into more of your discipline habits and just I don't know, give the audience some tips on how they can create their own discipline, how they can create their own strong foundations. Because heck, without the discipline, you're not going to become great. Without the discipline, you're not going to leave this legacy, right? So, what are your thoughts? I would like G to start off.
Well, first of all, I don't know that I can be in the same sentence with Ricardo about the discipline deal. So I have not been as disciplined as some of these other people that I hear where they get up.
He's being modest, guys. Don't worry.
3 o'clock in the morning for it. No, honestly, I don't think I ever woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym. It is what it is. That's not me. If I get up at 6 or 7, then that's my typical morning. But here's my philosophy with that is regardless of what time you get up, there's a time when you go to sleep and there's a time when you get up.
Mm-hmm.
When you get up, then really get up and then really do what you're supposed to do. Become the most productive person during your hours of being awake. So if you get up at 7:30 in the morning and you go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, so you have all of those hours to be productive.
Yes.
And to live by a calendar that's productive, where you have a schedule, where you have things to accomplish during the day, where you prioritize what needs to be done that day, and then don't leave for tomorrow what you can do today. So that's super important. The other thing too is that a lot of people have too many distractions.
Yes.
And your ability to cut out distractions from your day makes you more productive.
Wow. Yes.
That's the main thing. Social media, for what it is, can be very productive. And also, it's a big distraction.
Very distractive.
A lot of distraction.
Yes.
Because there's people who just roll that there's, you could watch social media for 3-4 minutes, TikTok, whatever, Instagram, Facebook, but you can be on there for half an hour.
Yeah.
And if you're not careful, you can be on there for longer.
Yes.
And you didn't make any money. You didn't set up any new appointments. You didn't close any new clients. There wasn't any cash flow. There wasn't any productivity, any monetary gain that came from that time spent on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're using social media to actually grow your business, to scale, to reach new contacts, I completely understand that. So that's it's sort of the double-edged sword. It can help you and it can also kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of them. Also, TV. Not a whole lot to gain from watching a lot of TV. There's people who watch game shows and people who watch a lot of news. And for most of the time, the most productive people that I know, they're not big TV fans.
Yeah.
Now, I will admit, I'm a guy that watches TV to watch a competitive athletic team. I love the Lakers. So I'll watch a full Laker game. And in the process, when the commercials are going on, I put the mute button and I get on my phone and I'm making contact. So I shoot out a text message or whatever, just so that I can, I guess, minimize the guilt, if you will. Yes. And then after that, you look at other time wasters, when you don't have a scheduled calendar day. They says, plan for tomorrow tonight. So before you go to bed, get on your phone or have your list. It says these are the things that must be done. These are urgent, important, the priorities. And if it's not growing your faith, if it's not growing your family, if it's not growing your finances, then you probably don't have a lot of time for it.
Whoa. Hold on. I want to get that one more time. Wait. So there's like 3 F's. Is that one more time, please?
There's 5 of them.
5. Okay.
Yeah. So whatever you're doing, if it's not growing your faith.
Okay. Faith.
Okay. If it's not growing your family, if it's not growing your finances, if it's not growing your fitness, And if you're not having fun, then you don't have time for it.
Wow. Powerful. Ricardo, have you heard of this 5F?
No, but I just did right now.
Yeah.
It's all 5Fs.
Wow. Very powerful, G. I love that. I know I saw Ricardo laughing because I was thinking the same thing. Because Ricardo here, for those who don't know, is a huge baseball fan, very avid. So are you similar in that sense where you might watch a baseball game and then you might be like, hey, you know what? I gotta do a quick text message or
I always do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
In between, obviously I feel the same in a sense blame that he does, because I tell my kids, do the most productive things at every given moment, right? If you're not doing anything productive, you're just wasting your time. So yeah, I feel the same guilt. Obviously, I do not watch a lot of TV. I only watch baseball whenever it's like postseason, playoff time periods. Other than that, I'm not watching professional baseball. I'm actually watching my boys prepared. I do spend a lot of time with my boys on their preparation process in the sport. So if I'm not at work, I'm basically either with my wife or with my boys on practices or seeing their personal coaches, because they're developing to become the best at what they do, which is in this case, they play baseball.
It's interesting with you guys because both of you guys are really good at disconnecting. I've noticed, right? You both have families, you both have kids, and I know when you guys are with your kids, it's kids time. And I feel like, and I'll tell you this I'm guilty with, especially with my generation, even myself at one point, where I was so into, I have to work hard. I have to work at all times. That even though I would put on the calendar, hey, Seth, you're disconnecting from this time, guess what? I'd still be texting, I'd still be calling. I wouldn't be present with the disconnect actually, or with my mom or my brother or who I spend time with. And I feel like spending time with your family and disconnecting, that's a part of the discipline, right? Having the discipline to say, hey, this is when I disconnect. And then when I do reconnect, I'm going to be productive as heck. G, could you explain more about it?
Yeah, it's really simple. I think when you have awareness, it says whenever you're going to do something, then really do it. So you're at dinner, eat, conversate, enjoy the time with your family. Dinner shouldn't be a time where you're there, the kids on their iPads, you on your phone, the TV's on. So it's not family time, it's distraction time. So what if we said, okay, everybody put their phones away. We're going to all have dinner. We're going to turn off the TV. We're going to turn off the iPads. We're going to put away our phones, and we're going to have this half an hour or 45-minute conversations with family. How's your school? How's work? Who's your friend? Therefore, we could have that time that's just for us. But the leader of that family needs to take that role.
Wow. They'll set the tone.
Absolutely. So if the leader doesn't do it, if the leader is distracted, then the kid says, well, why should I do it? He's not doing it. It's monkey see, monkey do. So that has to be set. That's the tone that has to be set. Put all the stuff away, all the electronics, all the gadgets, all the toys, put them to the side. Let's have dinner. And then we pray before we eat. We enjoy a meal. We have dessert if we're going to have dessert. And then after that, we can get back to whatever we were doing.
So you need not only the discipline, but basically you have to assume the responsibility of that leadership role.
Yeah.
Well, somebody has to, in a sense, set the tone, right?
Yeah.
For what you expect to happen based off of that. And it's great, man.
Wow. Ricardo, what's your take on disconnecting?
It takes discipline, like you said, because your phone is ringing and there's business and there's probably money flowing in.
Yes.
So it's one of those things that it takes discipline to be present, to be able to disconnect completely and be able to have a conversation with your loved one, your wife, your kids, or that dinner, that moment where you're actually able to go deep into conversations because you're connected. Obviously, I had an issue with that years ago, and I had to become more disciplined on being present because I wasn't present. I'm the first one to blame on that. When I was building my business, I was present. I was there, but I wasn't present in the moment. I was talking to my wife or to my kids, but my mind was somewhere else, was doing transactions, was doing this, doing that, but I wasn't here. Within time, I became more disciplined to understand that was an area I needed to work on, that I really needed to disconnect myself completely from the attachment and be able to have that connection with my wife or my kid where I could have deeper levels of conversation. Like right now, if I'm taking my boy to practice, I try not even to answer the phone or not even look at my phone. You know why? Because I have my child sitting right next to me on the passenger side, and we're having such a great conversation that I do not want anything to interfere, because he's talking to me, and I want to grasp everything that he's telling me, because it's so special and so important what he's telling me. I don't want to miss those moments. So I have become so more, again, disciplined towards it, where I understand, okay, personal time, work time, personal time. And that's why my days are so disciplined on my schedule, because I put slots based on priorities. Personal development, preparation, work, and then family again. And when I am with family, I try to be as present as possible, because I want to be able to understand conversations and feel the conversation on how the message is being related to me.
When you guys are at work, is it the exact opposite too? Are you basically, hey, I'm here to work? Is that kind of the formula?
I think that's what makes this man very successful, and I think that's why I'm the same. If I'm there, I'm there. When I'm at work, I'm laser focused on what I'm doing, and that's why I'm extremely productive, because I know I can easily distract myself. But when I'm on my zone, work zone, get out of my way, because I'm here to do what I'm supposed to do, and I'm extremely productive because I am so focused and in the moment, in my zone, obviously taking care of business based on where I'm here for.
Wow. Gee, what do you think of that?
Absolutely. I think it's important to if you're attending a phone call relating to business, a Zoom call, if you're in front of a prospect, a client, if you're conducting business, then really conduct business. There's nothing worse than dealing with someone that you're doing business with where they're distracted. I want to give you an example. Like if you go to the dentist, he should be working on your teeth. 100% of his attention should be on making your dental process better. But what if he's on his phone?
Oh, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Okay, think about that. But somehow we don't look at ourselves as professionals, because professional people are fully focused. You have 100% of, we call it my undivided attention. So when we have a conversation, it says, hey, can I have 100% of your undivided attention? I don't care if it's for 5 minutes, but I want 100% of your undivided attention. And you'd be surprised how many people that's foreign to them, because they're so distracted. They're thinking about something else. They're on social media. They're getting up to go get something to eat. They're going to the restroom. So for people to give 100% of their focus to one thing for at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, the longer you can stay focused, the more effective you are.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Isn't it easy to really determine who's actually listening to you or not? I capture that very fast.
Yeah.
Because I'm focused on a conversation, and when I'm talking to somebody who's not at the same level of obviously being focused within the conversation, I easily really understand, hey, this guy's listening to me, but he's not even following me.
Well, it's not syncing.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's it. That I would suppose that is easy to their eyes wander.
Capture it.
Their eyes wander. You could tell they're kind of lost.
Yeah.
They slur.
Yeah.
It's not the conversation is not crisp. You can just feel that the energy.
Even over the phone.
Even over the phone. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The phone is the worst.
Yeah.
I would say the phone is the worst. So oftentimes the way I do that, if I'm going to have a conversation with someone that says, hey, you have iPhone? I said, yeah. Let's talk on FaceTime. That way I really force you to look at me. Now you can't be doing all the other stuff.
Yeah.
You could be walking around the house or whatever you're doing, but the phone must be watching, because I want to be watching the facial expressions. People's facial expressions tell more than their words oftentimes.
Oh, for sure.
I agree.
There's a study that, and I think you guys are probably familiar with this. It's that the human language is 70% body language, 23% voice tone, and only 7% the words you're actually using. So that basically says 93% of what you're saying is not coming out of your mouth.
Wow.
So that's the very powerful statement. Before, I do want to clarify one thing, G, just because I want to bring value to the audience. And I was mind blown when you said this right now. You said if a dental professional was working on your teeth and he was on your phone, would you feel
on his phone?
On his phone, sorry. Yes. Would you feel comfortable / is this and I would say, of course not. And I was like, holy moly. And look how, I know, especially my generation, I'll tell you, unfortunately, with the millennials, I feel like so much are like, oh, we deserve money, we deserve respect. Those are two things, right? Respect and money. If you want to be treated, if you want the same respect and the same fortune or whatnot that they're making, treat yourself the same way. You know, be a doctor, you know, in the sense of focus on what you're doing. Don't be on your phone. Because I know so many professionals in other fields outside of medical that just, they don't treat themselves the same way. And it's like, how you gonna expect to get the respect then? I wanted to make sure the audience heard that again, just because like it was going through my head over and over again. So that was just awesome. Well, hey, shoot, I think that's basically wraps up. We're pretty, oh yeah, we're pretty deep into it. So is there any other last minute thoughts you'd like to add, G?
Hey, be great. You got one life. Live it to the best.
Ricardo?
Just had a blast and a great opportunity just being here today.
Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, I hope you guys joined it. We'll definitely have more content for you guys. Clip this into mini clips so you guys can digest it easier. If you guys want to see G again, by the way, because I know we do, but if you want to see him, feel free to comment. Feel free to leave us a message. And Guillermo, yours is at Coach G Haro.
Yes, sir.
And on Instagram, Ricardo is the Acevedo team. So make sure to follow them. We hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great one.